Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Your event host will be joining soon to begin today's webcast. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to Insight24, a business-to-business directory of webcasts, podcasts, videos, and product demos for individuals like yourself. For today's business, accurate and timely information is key. Whether you're researching new product information, comparing solutions, or evaluating industry trends, Insight24 is your single source for timely and relevant information for your business and technology needs. With an up-to-date B2B directory, you gain intelligence by viewing and listening to thousands of webcasts and podcasts in over 30 categories. With topics on marketing, networking, mobile computing, compliance, security, and more, you have the intelligence and insight for day-to-day business decisions. With an easy-to-use interface, you can browse through the business and technical topics or search by keyword. You can also review content recently posted, viewed most often by your fellow peers, or featured on Insight24. Furthermore, you can gain business and technology insights from leading companies and industry experts such as Brocade, Frost & Sullivan, BMC Software, Novell, Tibco, and others. Insight24 is your single source for information, intelligence, insight.
Hello, this is Ellis Booker, editor of B2B Magazine. I'd like to welcome you to From White Papers to Rich Media, the next generation of lead generation. Today's webcast looks at the techniques and technologies marketers are using today for lead gen and what you can do to improve your results. But first, here's Jeff Buttle, B2B's online marketing manager, with a word about our sponsor.
Insight24 is a B2B rich media network of webcasts, podcasts, corporate videos, and online demos for enterprise IT professionals. It is a single source for business and technology insight. Featuring companies like IBM, Cisco, IDC, HP, BMC Software, Novell, and Frost & Sullivan, the B2B network provides thousands of timely webcasts, podcasts, and videos from thought leaders, technology analysts, and industry-leading companies. Insight24 is free for all users. For information on Insight24, visit www.insight24.com.
Thanks, Jeff. Marketers face a myriad choices when it comes to ways of registering prospects and capturing leads online. Among them, newsletters, white papers, webcasts, podcasts, online video, and social media. Marketers are working every day to improve both the volume and the quality of the lead list they send to their colleagues in the sales department. What lead generation tactics are working best? How can you best satisfy the demands of the C-suite, the sales team, and yourself? This webcast will give you some great ideas. Today's panel features Bill Rigby, Director of Online Account Services at Computerworld, and Alexa Riggins, Director of Online Marketing at PCWorld. But before we begin, I'd like to get to the first of our 3 poll questions. In fact, the first one's a 2-parter. When it comes to lead gen, the quality of leads versus the quantity is always an issue. What things are adding the most names to your lead list? Your options are white papers, webcasts, email, online video, podcasts, and social media. And now, let's see how you did. That's interesting. Social media is actually outperforming a few other things, online video rather. But it appears that email is the top technique, followed by white papers and then webcasts. And now to our second poll question. What things are adding the best names to your lead list? White papers, webcasts, email, online video, podcast, or social media. And now let's see how you did. Again, email does seem to be picking up the largest percentage at 60%. And now Computer World in 2000 and is currently in charge of ad operations and account services. For the past 5 years, he's had a specific focus on lead generation. Working closely with VP Publisher of Online for Computer World, Bill helps develop new online lead generation programs for Computer World and its advertisers. Bill?
Thanks, Ellis. Hi, everybody. This is Bill Rigby, Director of Online Account Services at Computer World. And as Ellis said, my group is responsible for the day-to-day of lead generation. So we report on it, we promote it, and along with a few other people, we develop new lead generation programs for our advertisers. So today I'm going to be talking about what the evolution is of lead generation, what's hot right now in this stage, and what we're seeing will be the next step. So before the internet, it was all about getting the right audience. And then with the internet, now we can measure clicks. Since 2002, we have the idea of a lead. Now the lead is the new success metric. Companies can invest money, and in return, they'll get back a list of titles, email addresses, mailing addresses, very valuable information. But how do you go the next step and actually separate the quality from the quantity? Well, some advertisers now we're seeing are doing this through engagements. That's why a lot of advertisers are turning to expandable rich media ads. These ads can be set up almost as mini websites. You can collect registration within those ad units and then tie that information back to other metrics such as how many pieces of content within this unit did the person interact with? How long did they interact with the unit? Again, it's an engagement metric. More engagement indicates higher quality, more interest. We did a campaign at Computer World. We had a large advertiser come to us with a campaign that had 6 parts. There were some white papers, some webcasts, and they needed us to present all of those in one slick package. So what we did at Computer World was develop a rich media ad that allowed us to display each of the pieces in one sort of carousel circular type motion. We collected registrations in that unit, and we were able to deliver back metrics to the advertiser. For example, in this campaign, 20% of the registrants viewed more than one piece of content. 5% viewed all of them. 22% of that group came back on a different day to actually engage with more content. Now, that's really valuable information. That indicates a higher quality lead, more interest, and we were able to deliver back for that group that did do multiple pieces of content. Here's their exact job functions. Here's where they worked. Powerful data. So that's rich media, but there's other vehicles. What's the right vehicle for you? So I can speak from my experience. First off, podcasting. People wonder if that's a good way to drive to lead generation. Well, at Computer World, we try to stay away from podcasting unless we know we can do it right. And by do it right, I mean you need to have a personality, someone interesting. Because you're looking to basically build, if you do it right, you're looking to build a little community, a fan base. Now, one of the problems with a community or a subscriber base is that they often don't like advertising. So if you can actually manage to get advertising out of them, they would be a very qualified lead. But again, you have to do it right. Webcasting at Computer World is something that's actually growing, and we're seeing that grow 100, 200%. A great way to get a lead. It draws a smaller crowd, but a very high qualified one. Now, you're asking people to put this on their calendar. You're asking them to basically leave work, go to the movies for an hour. But if you get them to do that, they're going to be very interested. That's a very interested audience, highly engaged, and more valuable. Now, email is still a great way to convert a lead. Actually, in the polls earlier, we saw that that's 60% how people are getting their leads. At Computer World, we'll sometimes fill 20, 30, 40% of a campaign through email alone. It's a great way to hit a specific slice of an audience. It's no longer, great, I got 500 leads. Now it's, I got 500 leads, but I wanted them to be CTOs in the United States within 3 blocks of a Starbucks. Email, great way to do it. Also, email is great because it lets you follow up with that audience. If you did get them to engage with your email, or even if you didn't, you can follow up with yet another email getting them to act, either take the next step or to act. White papers, that's where it all started. Brings in high quantity, low quality leads. So, this could be anything from a student to a CTO, lots of leads. What we do at Computer World to separate the quality from that quantity is we have a trick where we use a white paper almost like a funnel for the higher quality lead. So we build smart registration forms where we can say, okay, this person's a CTO, so we'll give them the white paper, but we're going to follow up immediately and automatically with another message that says, maybe you'd also like this webcast. Or if we know because of the way they answered their registration that they live in a certain town in California, we can say, hey, we have a face-to-face event you might want to go to. So we use the white paper to funnel the higher quality leads to take the next step or to other programs where we need them. So which vehicle is the right one for you? It may be that no one vehicle is the right vehicle, but instead you have to consider that the customer's on a journey. It's what we call the customer journey. And there's a decision-making process. It starts with the customer develops a need for something. Phase 2, they're evaluating, they're researching. Phase 3, they make the decision to purchase. Each one of the vehicles I just talked about hit that person in a different phase of that life cycle. White papers and podcasts might hit someone early on in the decision process. Webcasts are a little further down the line. So what you want to do is consider the customer journey and don't just rely on one vehicle. At Computer World, some of the most successful programs are the larger ones that have more parts and hit people at different points in the cycle. I think in the future we're going to see more programs where you can actually identify quickly where someone is in their life cycle through, say, a white paper registration or news articles they may be reading on a website, and then we're able to follow up automatically with another type of content that's designed to move them further down the cycle. So I'm going to end with a few tips on better lead generation. These are tricks that we use, that I use at Computer World, and over time, these have got me higher qualified leads, more leads. Maybe you're doing some of these. First one, ask questions on your reg form that could further qualify your lead. For example, what's your role in the decision process? What's your time frame for purchase? Physically ask the question. At Computer World, when we build reg forms, we allow up to 2 additional questions such as these. You'll get in trouble if you do too many questions. You'll start to see some fall off in your conversion rates. But this could be a smart way to capture where they are in that purchase cycle and how valuable they are to you. Use your reg form to build a newsletter circulation. If you can, consider adding a checkbox at the end of your reg form. Would you like to subscribe for the XYZ newsletter? Great way to build customer base for yourself, nurture those leads, build their trust. Leverage one asset to drive qualified leads to the next. For example, the white paper as a funnel I talked about earlier. You might build a program where you have a white paper, funnel someone to a webcast. Somehow you might be able to leverage them into a newsletter subscription. Explore new PDF formats. You might get some more bang for your buck this way. I know of a few technologies out there that will actually password protect or lock the PDF basically behind registration. So when you distribute this PDF, say you're an IT manager in a company, the PDF itself is locked with a registration form. When they fill out that registration form, it captures their data. If they pass that PDF file to 2 or 3 or 4 of their coworkers, their information is captured as well. In return, you can find out how deep into an organization you got, which job titles you had. For email, consider shifting from text to HTML. I know at Computer World 2 years ago we did a test, an A/B split, HTML versus text. We saw no difference. 6 months ago, we revisited, saw a huge difference. Things are changing, so consider HTML. With that, though, make sure you study the latest deliverability guidelines for email. Everything down to the background color on a table cell can affect deliverability. Don't be afraid to experiment with rich media. The interface isn't what it used to be, like I said. These days, rich media lets you maybe provide a good vehicle for registration, for lead gen. And lastly, don't distract them. Have your call to action submit directly to a registration page and do not present more options. They either register or they don't. I go to registration pages where they offer links to, other white papers, other sites. If you put links on the page, people are going to click it. That's a percentage of the audience you're losing. Get them there. Give them two options, register or don't. So that's all for me. If anyone has any offline questions, my email address is bill_Rigby@computerworld.com. And thanks for listening.
Thanks, Bill. And now, before we move on to our next presenter, I'd like to ask our third and final poll question. Pretty simple. Are you using lead scoring? Your options are yes, no, not currently, but planning to. While you're answering this question, remember, again, that you can always download the slide decks used for today's presentation by clicking the Download Slides button. And now, let's see how you did. Well, quite a majority of you, 61.5%, are not currently using any kind of scoring, followed by those who say they're planning to, and only about 15% are currently using lead scoring. Our next speaker is Alexa Riggin. She's Director of Online Marketing for PC World Communications, where she's responsible for all Internet marketing initiatives, including audience development, email marketing, and lead generation. She brings more than 12 years' experience in the field of email marketing, SEM, SEO, web analytics, and advertising product development. Before joining PC World, she held positions as product manager at Ask.com and CNET. Alexa holds an MBA from Golden Gate University and an BA from McGill University. Alexa?
Hey, Ellis. Thanks for inviting me here today to speak with all of you guys. I'm going to follow up on what Bill presented on just a few moments ago, and I'm going to talk a little bit about nurturing leads through traditional and rich media channels. I think something that we've all been experiencing pretty recently and is increasing pressure to demonstrate ROI on any of the campaigns, whether it's a lead campaign or not, that we're running. And I think sometimes there can be even extra pressure on demonstrating ROI because it's sort of the last step before we think we're going to be getting to that buying decision. So I wanted to talk about how actually starting before we get to that point, starting with awareness, can be very important to the success of a lead campaign. So before you get ready for any lead campaign, you want to think about how are we going to grab this person's attention so that at the point when they are just starting to think about buying a product or service, that they're thinking about your brand and that it's top of mind. So if you're already in their mind's eye when it's time to think about making a buying decision, you're ready to engage them in the next step. And I think this step, the phase 2, the research and consideration phase, might be the place where we have the biggest opportunity with some of our lead gen campaigns. This is a place where we can talk to our prospects about what they're looking for. We can address their needs, and it gives us a chance to actually become a mentor and advise them and educate them about the product or service that they might be interested in. It's a great chance to build trust or to increase your trust. And thanks to the web and to rich media and to white papers, we have a lot of opportunities to do this. So when people are, before people are out there deciding to make a purchase decision, they're looking at lots of different types of content. So some of the things that they might be looking at are expert and unbiased or independent reviews. So they might come to a place like PC World or Computer World or B2B Online and look and see what the industry experts have to say about a particular product or service. And that's a very valuable point in the decision-making process. But it's not the only opinion that purchases are looking for. They're also looking to get peer reviews. They want to know what people have been experiencing in the real world with the product or service. Sure, the experts might have tested the product in the lab, but what is it really like to work with this product day to day? Or what is it really like when I need to call customer service? What's that like when I'm engaging with the supplier? And lastly, they're also looking for information from the vendor or the manufacturer. They need to get questions answered like, I need this product in the next 2 weeks. Is it available? I need something that fits this size. Is it going to fit? And that's, these are all valuable types of information that users are looking for before they decide to make a purchase. So, there are lots of opportunities to educate prospects and become a mentor. Some of them that we've had success with at PC World are co-marketing programs. At PC World, for example, we have a lab that does independent tests of all types of consumer electronics and computer hardware products. So we will make the resources of our lab available to vendors who might want to have an independent test of their product. And this means that it gives them a chance to basically have their products evaluated by the same tough and stringent standards that we normally use in all of our tests, but we can dive deep and give them a chance to have a review of their product, and their name can be on it as well. It's completely editorial independent, but it just gives it adds that halo effect to the validity of your product. Educational tools that you can develop on the web are also pretty handy. Something that comes to mind might be some sort of ROI calculator for the user. I'm looking to buy a fleet of laptops for my small company. What are the benefits of using this brand versus another brand versus this type versus another type? And if you can set up some sort of quick and easy online tool that can demonstrate those benefits, that's always going to be great for your audience. I think another interesting way that you can engage with your prospects and mentor them somewhat is to encourage innovators in your company to write a blog. One example that comes to mind is the official Google blog. I'm sure there are a few of you out in the audience who are doing search engine marketing campaigns or search engine optimization as well. Now, on the official Google blog, they let their product managers and engineers talk about some of the projects that they're working on. And that's really helpful to me as someone who is, buying their services to understand what's coming next, how does it work, and I feel like I can trust them. Finally, white papers are also another way that you can do a great job of outlining your specs and your framework. Oh, and one of the other co-marketing programs that I meant to mention were webcasts. Like we're doing right now. Webcasts are a great chance to actually have a dialogue with the people that you're looking to engage. You're a chance to present live and then follow up later on demand for those who are unable to make the presentation. So some of the things that we might want to consider when we're coming up with an integrated lead program is the fact that you might want to consider the diversity of your audience. Lots of people are facing different types of constraints. For example, I've already seen a few questions come in from the audience about can I dial into a number? My speakers aren't working. There's lots of just environmental factors sometimes that it can impact a person's ability to engage with one format or another. So why not make all available so that everyone has a chance to either listen to the webcast on demand or to listen to it live or download the white paper, whatever might work for them at that specific point in time. Microsites and landing pages are also a great way to bring all the assets of a particular campaign together. I think Bill already mentioned a little earlier that at Computer World they've been seeing some success with rich media units that allow you to scroll through all the different assets of a particular campaign. And I think that those, along with microsites and landing pages, are things that add consistency to your particular project and just bring it all together in a comprehensive place where you can either look at one asset at a time or engage with many all in a row if that's the type of information consumer that you are. So Bill talked a little bit about working with the various different assets to set up triggered email campaigns, if someone, or working through a funnel, if someone downloads a white paper, maybe follow up with a webcast. I think it also gives you a chance to do some additional marketing by thanking people for registering, suggesting that they might want to follow up. For those people who have missed the live version, you can remind them that the downloadable version or the on-demand version is going to be available in 48 hours. You can make suggestions for other types of further reading, promote your corporate blog, whatever it is that you think is going to be valuable to your readers and is going to further educate them about your products or services. I think another point that I'd like to make is that while we want to make sure that we are collecting information about the people that are interested in our product, and we do this with forms, and we can ask specific questions that can help qualify them in terms of what company size are you working at, or what's your title or role, or when are you going to purchase. But also it's helpful sometimes to make some of these tools free or available without registration so that you're able to get a little taste of the type of information that you might be able to get if you were willing to submit your email address. And then the last point is make it easy to access the multiple touch points. At PC World, we use a registration system where once you've registered once, say for your first white paper, then the next time that you want to register for the webinar that's part of the same program, you don't need to fill out all your information again. So all you need to do is click the submit button. A cookie recognizes that you've been here before, and you can just move on. And in the back end, we're able to collect the data that says, yes, this person came here and looked at the webcast, and then they came back a little while later and they decided to look at a white paper. And it makes it a lot easier for the same person to engage multiple times with a different touch point. So I think Bill and I have just both been talking about the way to build better leads step by step is to engage them with as many touch points as possible. It's going to make people more familiar with your brand, with your services. They're going to trust you, and they're going to be warmer leads. So I think I saw a question a little bit earlier about how do we define the term lead, and I think that's something that's really going to vary company by company, by having multiple touch points, it's going to give you, if you have a more sophisticated way of actually deciding that at a certain point this person is a qualified lead, we're not going to qualify them until we know when they're going to buy. We're not going to consider them qualified until they've engaged with at least 3 different touch points. This gives you a chance to make it further down that process. Next, I thought I'd share with you some information about how at PC World we tend to be able to generate leads by the different sources that we're using. Right now we're generating the overwhelming majority of our leads, whether we're promoting a webcast, a white paper, or some other format, through email broadcasts. But there are also several other channels through which we're able to drive a relatively significant number of leads. We'll also use our email newsletters to promote particular programs, and those can drive up to 10% of leads. Banner ads work really well on our site as well when we are promoting, especially, for example, a test center report. Those tend to work quite well. And lastly, contextual ads, and by contextual ads I mean not necessarily text links, but links that are linked to a white paper or a webcast or some other touch point that are embedded in other editorial content or in contextually related index pages on the PC World website. Next, I thought I'd move on to talk about lead composition by touch point. Generally speaking, at PC World, we found that we are able to collect the most number of leads through our co-marketing programs, such as the Test Center report that I've mentioned a few times already. That seems to be also a big entry point for a lot of our people who go on to access multiple assets. After co-marketing or our Test Center programs, white papers are the next biggest bang. We tend to get a lot of people interested in downloading white papers. Webcasts follow behind at around 15%. I think that's more or less in line with what Bill was mentioning, where Computer World is generating leads, and I think as well from when the audience was answering the poll questions, it was around 20%. And then the final 5% comes from other, and that's sort of a whole bunch of things bundled together. Executive videos, different tools that people may use to answer questions. So the degree of qualification by touchpoint, I think we've already talked about that. The more times that you've accessed a different asset as part of the program, the more qualified, we generally believe the lead to be. Our co-marketing programs tend to be the first place that people will go, next white papers, and then finally webcasts and videos. So by the time someone has reached the webcast and video stage, they tend already to be perhaps a little more qualified. Perhaps they've already engaged with some other types of assets, and they're at a point where they're willing to make a time commitment to sit down and listen to an hour-long program and to interact and ask questions of the moderators. So just to sum up what we've already talked about today, at PC World we've really learned that starting with awareness is the best step. Just because you're doing a lead gen campaign doesn't mean that you need to avoid, the magazine. It's a great place to get people aware of your brand, and then follow up with the chance to earn trust with educational materials, whether that's a white paper, a webcast, a podcast, a video. Include, multiple touch points. Utilize triggered email campaigns or other triggers. And then finally, be patient, because if you go through all these steps, you're going to be qualifying better leads over a longer period of time. So that about sums up my presentation for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any follow-up questions or want to reach out to me, you can reach me at alexa_riggins@pcworld.com.
Thanks, Alexa. Very interesting presentation. It's now time for the Q&A section of our webinar. And I'm delighted to say we have quite a number of excellent questions for our two guests. We're going to try and get to as many of these as we can. Bill, we had a number of questions regarding co-marketing. Can you address what you exactly mean by that? What elements go into co-marketing?
Co-marketing. I think that might have been Alexa.
Yeah, I can take that one,
Alexa.
Ellis. Yeah, I did mention it a couple times, and I realized that I probably should have done some clarification. What I mean by that is working with another trusted, reliable source to help validate some of your claims. So, if, for example, you decided to work with PC World on doing either some custom publishing or doing an engagement with the Test Center, or some place where you can essentially get some sort of halo effect by working with someone or an organization in your industry that has some validity.
Very good. As we all saw, a number of relatively few of our audience are using lead scoring at the moment. We have a question here. Can you spend a moment discussing options for lead scoring and what those who are using it might say about it? Bill?
Yeah, I can tell you about some of what I've seen. We're not very advanced in that respect at Computer World. We don't have an official lead scoring system. At the end of the day, basically, you want to be able to look at a spreadsheet of your leads and instantly see which ones are hot or cold. Now, that's not a measure. We can't say it's the official measure is 0 to 50. It's not the same for everyone. Some people could be targeting a certain company size or a certain job title, and if the company and job title fit, then that makes them a hotter lead. At Computer World, oftentimes if we do some of these larger programs like I was talking about earlier that have many components, we'll sometimes consider each engagement with a piece of content. Basically, that would be +1 in their ranking. So to the advertiser, we can go back and say, this person's hot. They looked at all 10 of your assets, or 1 out of the 10, or 5 out of the 10. And or it could be as complex as looking at everything they do. So saying, okay, this person clicked through a newsletter I sent them. 3 days later, they engaged with a white paper. 4 days after that, they came back and watched a webcast. And each time they do these engagements, they're becoming a hotter lead. That would have to be for you, I guess, to put together the actual system that could score those leads. And it's a little bit subjective, but those are typically what we're seeing for lead scoring, and it works because you can actually sit down and say, and basically craft your own measure.
Alexa, anything to add?
Yeah, actually, we've seen some advertisers recently tell us that how they're scoring leads is based on not, if the lead answers a specific question as X, we're going to consider them a qualified lead, but rather they're using a weighted system. So say they ask 3 or 4 questions that maybe include company size, when you expect to purchase, et cetera, et cetera. Rather than having to get a certain question right, they'll weight each of the answers, and if they come out with a final score of they answered this, and this, and the total score meets my criteria, then we're going to consider them a qualified lead. So they're answering different questions can hold different weight, and it's not an all or nothing scenario.
Gotcha. Moving on to our next set of questions.
Ellis, I see one that I'd actually like to answer.
Please go ahead.
The question was, and I think this would be useful, and I maybe should have built it into my presentation, but there was a question asking about where would I find the guide to email deliverability? You can, of course, Google email deliverability and find, thousands of people's opinions on the subject, and those are pretty good. But I wanted to point people to the Internet Advertising Bureau's website. It's the IAB, and they like to come up with guidelines for certain things. And I think just recently they released a 14-page white paper called The Marketer and Agency's Guide to Email Deliverability. And again, that's IAB.net.
Related to that, there's a question here. There's a consistent argument about whether or not to use HTML or text emails to promote events. You recommend HTML. I can't remember if that was Alexa or Bill.
I did. That was
Bill. Could you please explain why you feel that way?
Well, first of all, we did a test, and it worked. So, that's obvious. Obviously, we want to go with what's working better. But to kind of expand on it a little bit, my own personal style is to use HTML very lightly. People tend to go overboard and make emails that look like full-blown websites. I'm not into that, and I don't think those work so well. But HTML, by nature, gives you the ability to mask links, for example. If you want somebody to click on, to go to a white paper, you can hot link the title of the white paper instead of having to put a big, ugly URL. If you have, a big, ugly URL, you can go out of your way to mask it using HTML. Some people also are more visual, and you might actually get a few more clicks off that newsletter if you include something like a white paper screenshot. If you have a text link on a page and the how many more people sometimes will actually click on the
people like
screenshot.
images. Alexa, what do you think about that question?
I'd have to agree with Bill, actually. At PC World, we've seen a lot more success with click-through rates with our HTML emails and eventual conversions, whether that's a lead program or otherwise. Additionally, I think that most email clients and most ISPs are accepting HTML email these days. And in the event that you have some folks in your audience who don't, most email application systems allow you to include a text version as well, and they can identify whether the person is reading an email or using an email client that reads HTML, and if they don't, then they get the text version. So really, your bases are covered.
Great. Let's move on to another question. Here's a very good one. What incentives have you found work better for C-level executives versus managers, directors to drive lead conversion?
I'm not sure exactly what they mean by incentive. I know we try not to, everybody wants to give away an iPhone right now to, or something like that, and that'll work. But with some advertisers, if we're giving away something to try and get a response, then they question, was this person interested, or are they more interested in the iPhone? So, if that's your question, we try and stay away from that. We try and focus on the content, craft the content, for the right audience.
Yeah, to follow up on what Bill's saying, I would say that we actually, the incentive is going to be the content of the white paper, the webcast. People are looking for information, and that's really the incentive. We do have other programs at PC World where we might have a sweepstakes, but that's generally for more consumer-oriented type campaigns and products.
Here's a question about one of the tactics we talked about, podcasts. I think we're all wowed by the gee whiz factor of podcasts. Do you think that they've been a disappointment, or are they just another fad? Bill, what do you think?
I think you need to have the right expectations. It is probably a fad. There's some buzz around it right now, but it is what it is. And I think people's first instinct when communities were popular, everyone was like, we gotta figure out how to make money off these guys. And then with podcasts, we gotta figure out how to make money off this. And it's not easy. In my opinion, it is what it is, and it's useful. And there's only so much you can do with it.
Alexa?
We actually don't do very much podcasting at PC World. At one of our other publications, Macworld, we do podcasts, and they're actually really quite popular with our audience. That might be because the audience is different. They're Mac users. Maybe every single one of them has an iPod or another device on which they can download their podcast. I think that might be a factor. Is it a fad? It could be. It could be that we're just going to be moving along to the next technology that's going to replace it.
One of the interesting ideas that we at B2B have written about is the notion of if you're going to do, say, a webcast, as we're doing today, make sure you create a podcast version of it and a transcript, conceivably, of the conversation. What do you think about that?
I think, making the webcast available in every possible format is big. Just in terms of getting audience viewership after the fact, having a transcript of the webcast is going to be the biggest factor. The search engines can actually index text and the text of the transcript of the webcast, and they'll have a harder time and less to chew on if they're just looking at a description of a webcast or a podcast.
Yeah, people like to, everybody consumes information in different ways, obviously, and, to break it up into all those different formats, you're just making it as accessible as possible.
Right. An idea that some marketers have talked to me about over the years, which for one of a better word we can call iterative registration. In other words, you collect a little bit of information on the first touch point, then in the second or third you keep gaining additional. What would be a good strategy for doing that, Bill? Again, it's a way of breaking up those questions, those qualifying questions, so you don't put them all in that first registration form.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and actually I'd like to hear from anyone who's had a good experience it could be as easy as a newsletter, but an email. But of course, only a percentage, maybe 10%, will end up opening that. So I'm not sure if the benefits outweigh the risks on that one.
Alexa, how about that? You, for instance, to Bill's point, you collect the email. That's all you want to get to that first touch, and then after that, you try and get additional stuff.
Actually, that's something that we're working on right now at PC World. We think it's going to make a big difference. Getting that first interaction, getting people involved, gaining their trust, and then asking them later on to give us a little bit more information. I think once you've already started to build a relationship, people are going to be more willing to give up a little bit more information about themselves.
Mm-hmm. We have at least one question on social media sites and how those fit into the strategy. That's so brand new. I haven't really seen a lot of discussion around it for lead generation. We have seen it around branding activities. What do you guys think about the use of social media sites for lead gen?
Oh, I think it can be one of the most highest qualified leads you can get. I mean, this is a community. You have their trust. But like you said, you don't see much lead gen going on there because it's difficult. It's difficult to get advertisers in front of a community like that, and we struggle with it every day. And I'm kind of interested in that poll answer from earlier where they said 10%. 10% of the respondents were getting their leads from social media. I mean, that really interests me.
And we have a couple of hundred people on the call, so
yeah,
20 or so. Somebody's doing it. Alexa, what have you seen?
Well, it's interesting. I'm actually recently become a member of a couple different industry organizations on Facebook, and that seems like something that's popping up more and more often. But what I'm just thinking out loud here a little bit is I'm not sure who owns the data at that point, and what where's that data being collected? Who's gotten the agree to whose terms of service and privacy policy? I think it could be interesting, but I think there are probably some complicating factors with some of the social networks. I'm just thinking of the Facebook example, but perhaps there are others.
Very good, Alexa, and that'll have to be the last word. I see we've run out of time. I'd like to thank our panel again and our listeners and our sponsor today, Insight24. If you'd like to contact any of our panelists on today's presentations, you can find their information on this slide. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great and prosperous